What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So as promised, in today's video I want to answer some of your Turo questions to thank you guys for helping get me to 20k subs. So if at any point in this video you're getting value out of this, go ahead and smash that like button. Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel and you like content like this, please subscribe. And if you know anybody trying to get into this business, maybe you can share this video with them to help them out. So let's jump right in. So my first question is from Euphoric, and he says, congrats, man, appreciate it. Question: what is your favorite car for Turo, and what car gains the best return on investment? It's funny you should ask that because I just literally made a video about that. So if you haven't already seen that, then you should definitely go and check that out, because not only do I talk about what I feel like are the best cars as far as economy vehicles, but I also break down some numbers to support that claim. So definitely go ahead and check that video out. I'm going to leave it in the description. Dante asks, how does the guest extend their trip, and how do you handle that situation? I looked on the app and couldn't find any solution other than the guest just making a whole new reservation with the same car. So if you're looking as a host and you're not currently in a reservation, well, you're just not going to see that option. Now, I don't have much experience from the guest side, but I know most guests can find it fairly easy. So it should just be an option under the trip detail menu that says change trip or something along those lines. Every time you request to change a trip, obviously the host has to approve it. You absolutely definitely do not have to start a new reservation every time. That would be super annoying. And if everything else fails, they can always call Turo customer service and they will contact you or send the request for the guest manually. All right, so Silas has a few questions. He's asking about supplementary claims. I do have a video on supplementary claims. I'm going through one right now. But in short, you cannot file a supplementary claim. You have to take the vehicle to an automotive shop or repair facility, and they have to file the claim on your behalf. A claim consists of providing the invoice, pictures, and also detail of the scope of work. Now, they're not going to issue payment to the shop. You still will get the payment as the host, and it's on you to work it out with the shop, but you need a shop to initiate the supplementary claim. So Honey asks, how much capital do you have to start Turo initially? Now, I talked about this in one of my first videos. How I did it was I actually got a business loan from Chase with another business that I already had established and been banking with them for a couple years, and went and got a couple credit cards, and then I applied for the business loan. So I kind of built up my credit a little bit, built up that relationship, and when they offered me an unsecured loan, I took that money and started my Turo business, and that amount was $45,000, and I went and I bought like 7 cash cars. That's how I started, but that's not the way that you have to start, especially if you don't have access to that kind of capital. There's a lot of different ways to fund vehicles. So Chad asks, if your car is not getting booked, how long do you wait before you lower the price? And how do you handle miles for month-long rentals? So as far as lowering the price, I usually try to lower my price during the weekdays or times that I notice are slower in my area, which is the weekdays. Usually my cars get booked on the weekends with no problem. But of course, if your price is overinflated, that might even affect your booking on the weekends. But what I'll do is I'll lower it by a couple dollars on the weekdays. And if it's still not getting booked, I'll lower it by another couple dollars. But you should always have an amount in mind that you're not willing to go below, and you should pretty much stick to that. So when I pick this amount, it's based on how much I have into the car and how long I'm projected to pay the car off as far as return on my investment. But if it helps for you, use the automatic pricing. Just set your minimum and your max and see what Turo comes up with. But sometimes their numbers could be way out there. So just, you might have to set that minimum and max really tight. But if your car's not getting booked, go ahead and keep dropping it a couple dollars. And a lot of times you have to do this too when you first list in the vehicle, or you're a new host and you don't have a lot of trips or reviews under your belt. You will have to lower your price a little bit. And the second part of that question was, how do I handle month-long rentals as far as miles go? So even though we have to give the guests 200 miles a day for non-deluxe vehicles, I don't want anybody driving these cars 200 miles a day every day. So if the guest brings the car back for oil change or something along those lines, and I notice that they're putting a lot of miles on it, then I'll find a way to kind of end the trip or kind of block the car off so they can't extend it. I have had some guests in the past who clearly they're using this for some kind of DoorDash or something like that, where they're using the vehicle to earn income. And now certain cars, I don't mind, because let's say I already have the car paid off and I'm only into it for $6-7 grand and I've already made like 10 grand. As long as I'm getting my $700-800 or whatever it is a month, sometimes I might not really care. But for certain cars, I definitely don't want to be driven 200 miles a day. It all depends on what kind of vehicle it is, how much you have into it, your depreciation. I would have to know all the details to be able to make that decision, because, you know, it might be a blessing. Like, I've had somebody using like a $5,000 car and they were using it for DoorDash and little stuff like that, and the car was making $800 a month. So at that point, it was working in my favor. But yeah, if they're doing 200 miles per day, every day, usually for most units, that's not sustainable. So the next question is from Big Body T, and he asks, I live in Vegas, thinking about starting a Turo business. My question is, should I buy something more practical like a Camry, or something I know will make even more money on, like a Scat Pack? First of all, I wouldn't suggest anybody list Scat Packs. Anybody who's renting a Scat Pack is either trying to do something scandalous, like, you know, some racing gigs, or do burnouts, or might even try to damn take your engine out of that and put it into theirs. So Scat Packs, just don't list it on there, man. Nothing's good gonna come out of that. If you want a higher day premium car, I mean, get something like a luxury vehicle, man, but keep the Scat Packs off. And if you're just trying to learn the business, I don't want you going in with a $40,000-$50,000 car. You're much better off starting off with something like a Camry, learning how the business goes, getting a feel for the customers, getting a feel for the day-to-day activity, maybe seeing what your supply and demand is like in your area, competitors, you know, just overall get a feel for the business. Don't go all in with an expensive car, especially not a Scat Pack, man. There's just so many things that can go wrong. You don't want to give yourself a headache trying to make a little extra money for a side hustle. Keep the Scat Packs, all those high performance cars, just keep them off. I don't really see at the end of the day like it being sustainable to where you're making a profit to offset all the things that can go wrong. So keep it off. Thank me later. So Silas asks again, why you list GM, Ford, Chevy, Nissan if Hondas and Toyotas are much better and stress-free? Well, because the Fords and the Chevys and the GM cars are cheaper than Hondas. Just put it straight out there. If you go to the auction or Facebook Marketplace or anywhere, usually people selling Hondas and Toyotas, they want a premium, and these cars hold their value pretty well. So you can't compare the price to a Ford and a Chevy. I could buy a Chevy and a Ford, probably two of them for every Honda and Toyota that I buy. So to simply put it, I'm buying Fords and Chevys not for their longevity, but because I can get into them cheaper. I can usually get my return on investment in about a year and a half, and then I could sell it and try to get all my money back. Toyotas and the Hondas, I can keep them for longer mileage because they are long-term vehicles and they maintain their value so well that I can even sell it for a higher price. And you might be asking that because you saw my last video, but if you didn't, definitely check this video out. It's crazy what I did with this Camry, even in a bear market when people weren't really renting cars. It just proves that these cars are superior rentals. So go ahead and check that video out. Hope it answers your question. So my next question is from Skill Flex, and she's asking, well, first, congrats, thank you. And can you explain pickup drop-off for average Turo hosts that do not own a lot or a place other than their primary residence for the exchange? So this is one of those things where, you know, not one answer just applies. I mean, you're gonna have to put on your hustle hat and be a problem solver. So I do have a lot that I rent, so it does make it a little bit easier for me. But even before I was doing Turo, I was an auto broker before I had a lot. And I was operating out of a little small office. I just had a few parking spots. And like I said, I wasn't doing Turo at the time, but if I was right now, that would be a perfect location. And I was paying like $400 a month for that office. So there are little spots like that where you can rent, but it also depends on your pickup and drop-off schedule. How late are you doing rentals? Are you capping it off when it gets dark? or maybe you're going a little into the late night hours, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. So it all depends. A lot of times, if you're just doing daytime rentals and not doing anything with the night, then you can use little places like gas stations as close to you, Walmart for meetups. I've seen a lot of hosts get creative with parkings and work out deals with places like little offices, dentist office, or little practices like that. You just have to get creative with it. Recently, my girlfriend's mother, I worked a deal out with her where I can keep a few cars at her house, and when the guest books it, I go over there and pick it up and I take it to my location. Now, if you're doing nighttime pickups, I highly suggest you use a Lockbox. But of course, you're gonna need a secure location to park the vehicle, and you're gonna need to work hand in hand with some sort of GPS device, Lockbox, and all these things combined make your life a lot easier. But it's just one of those things where I can't really just give an answer. You just have to keep your eyes open, ask. Don't get scared of rejections. If there's a spot that looks ideal in your area and you think you can make it work, go ahead and approach the owner of that business or the owner of that building or property, or find somebody to work with. Like I said, if there's a dealer or auto broker and they have an office and they're not using it at certain times or not using all their space, approach them and work out a deal with them. And if they say no, just keep it moving to the next one. But it's just one of those things where you're gonna have to go out there and hustle and just find the perfect spot for what it is you're trying to do. Even if the spot you're starting off at is not the ideal perfect location, it's a start, and then just maybe keep an eye out for that ideal perfect location. All right, so let me answer this question from Kofi. He says, I love your channel, thank you, but I have one question. How do I buy cars from the auction? So I buy cars from the dealer auctions because I am a dealer. So if you want to access a dealer's auction, then you will have to be a dealer, or you'll have to have a dealer sign you up to go to the auction as like a representative. You can approach smaller dealers and they might go for it, especially if you're willing to split some kind of cost with them, and that could be a faster way to get access to the auction without applying for your own dealer's license. There are also public auctions. I would probably stay away from those record auctions unless you're bringing some kind of mechanic with you to check the cars out first. There's a lot of other auctions like government auctions and stuff that you don't need a dealer license for. And also in some states like Georgia, you can apply for a broker license, and that's the same exact thing as a dealer's license, except you don't need a car lot. You can operate out of an office, and I think when I had my office, the requirements were so low. It was only like a 400 square foot office suite that you needed, and a lot of places around here have buildings where they break off into different suites, and you can rent one of those and apply for your license. So Alex Young asks, how do you handle damage and accidents? Well, it's not that hard. I actually have a couple of videos. I'll try to put them down in the description, but pretty much you want to make it a habit of checking your vehicle out every time the guest brings it back. I mean, walk around it, inside, the whole nine. Make sure you go through it. If you spot some damages, sometimes, you might not be able to tell like if the damage is already there or not. So that's where pre-trip photos are very, very important, because a lot of times I go back to my pre-trip photos just to make sure that the damage didn't happen like a trip or two before and I missed it. So when you notice some damage, there's an option right under the trip. It says, charge for damages. And once you hit that button, it takes you through the whole damage claim where you have to upload pictures, do a description on the damage. And I don't think I have a detailed video on how to actually do damage claims. I think a lot of my videos are just like how I made out with the claim. But maybe that's a great video to make, how I actually go through the damage claims. But a lot of the questions, you just want to hit, I don't know. Like it's going to ask you, were people injured? Was there third party involved? So obviously if there's damage to your vehicle and the guest did not let you know anything, then you really don't know the answer to those details. So it'll come around back in an investigation where they contact the guest and try to get more information. But as far as you're concerned, your pictures are the most important thing. And just make sure you get close pictures, multiple pictures, all the areas of damage, because a lot of times when it comes to Snapsheet, they're paying you off strictly off your pictures. So Your pictures are literally worth money in this scenario. All right, so this question is from Moses. Well, first, thank you for the great content you deliver on this channel. I appreciate that. My question is, can you list rebuilt title on Turo or salvage title? And the answer is no, absolutely not. And back a couple years ago, their system wasn't integrated with the Department of Revenue or Motor Vehicles Department. And, you know, some of these things slip through the cracks, but now they pretty much catch it all. When you go to list a vehicle, it'll let you know if the title is branded or salvage, rebuild, if it has any kind of odometer discrepancy. Well, I don't know about odometer discrepancy, so you definitely want to do your due diligence. Make sure it doesn't. I want to start a Turo business this year. What is the car buying process? And what do you think about Turo in a place like Seattle? Well, any major city has demand because there's people coming and going and people taking their cars to the shop and still needing to get around. So as long as you're somewhere close to a major city, then there is demand for rental cars. And let me see, you're asking, I want to start, what's the car buying process? So my car buying process is, I pretty much buy most of my vehicles from the dealer auction right now because I am a licensed dealer in the state of Georgia, but I've also bought cars from Facebook Marketplace. And sometimes these off-market deals can be the best deals because you're dealing one-on-one with the customer. You can haggle them a little bit. You could find little things wrong with the car to try to bring the price down. Like when I go to the auction, we're just bidding against other people who want the car. And sometimes like they're gonna make you pay a lot higher because maybe they want the car more. Auction is my #1 go-to spot, but I'm always looking around on Facebook Marketplace. I'm always entertaining little sale offers from people who know that I buy cars and rent them out. And I bought a couple of cars like that also, just from like mutual friends of friends. Just, you know, just shoot them an offer and sometimes they just take it. So #1 place, auction. 2, Facebook Marketplace. 3, word of mouth.